Hello, howdy guys, how are you doing? Here we are, check it out, on and off. It's got all the patents down on it. Pretty cool. It says patent number 1938 on there from Canada, so that would kind of be pointing towards 1938 then, so I guess it would work on a 35 just for, you know, finishing touches and stuff, right? But yeah, anyway, so here's the curved box, the back panel of it. Well, technically it's called the front panel of the box, but here's how I made it. I wanted to show you this and share this with you guys just to see how some of the sheet metal goes when you are welding. A little bit more in depth on what the other welding bits have been, right? But here we go. So I'm going to slide in a couple pictures here before I, figured out I should be filming. But I made basically the front of this frame that I made for it, I had to recess that. That was to accept the concave or curve of what the cab is. So I ended up bringing that back about 1.5 inches. And then I had a piece of round bar, same size as this round bar here. And I bent that. So I bent that, put it in between a couple of big sawhorses, and just started bouncing up and down on it. And really, I'm not going to film myself bouncing up and down on poles, right? We're going to save that for the strippers, okay? But anyway, now, bent that pole, got it so that the convex of that was about the same as what the box of the truck was. Then I did the same thing with a piece of square bar on the bottom of it, a little softer, but made that same convex, laid out my square tube, welded it all up. Just put a level on it, going across it, just some kind of straight edge, making sure that everything was nice and straight where, you want to be. From the start, this box is a rectangle, so everything in this box has been made square and straight. So as long as you've got the perimeters starting out with something that's square and straight, you can really trust what you got. Then you can have control over what you're doing. Having it where you got the control is obviously where you want to be. So anyways, after knowing everything here is straight, basically got my sheet metal out. Now the sheet metal here was about 20 bucks, something like that. So I had to spend some money, which sucks, but got the sheet metal here. It's a little bit longer than what the sides of the box are right now, and that can stay, but really a bunch of C-clamps here. Got one vice grips on there first, just hold it in place, and then C-clamp it all the way around just to hug that convex as tight as I can. Back those off a little bit and just tapped the piece of sheet metal so that it flushed up nicely on the corner. Again, everything is straight on this, so a nice 90-degree cut piece of sheet metal, it butts in with a nice 90. So that went in great, and once I was sure where I was and I wanted to pull the trigger on this thing, that's what I did. Started tacking it off in place, tacked off the top, put a few tacks down the side of it, and then of course on the inside edge as well. From there, kind of got a quick review, make sure that it's definitely where it's going to be, and I thought, yeah, it looks good, so let's go, let's proceed. Did that, and next step is where I had the overhang. So there's a bit of overhang on the opposing side of material, and I basically just scribed my line and went off of what that was and cut it out with the angle grinder. It turned out, couldn't turn out any better than what it did, and that edge was done as well. So now it's coming together where the sheet metal is looking good on there, and really at that point I was just closing things up. So got to let her rip a bit on the welder here and took the whole top profile, just butt welding it to the metal. I'm going to add a couple little spots in there on the opposing side of the bar, but got a lot of weld in there, good contact, and everything melted into place really nice. Followed up with the tacks coming down the sides of the box and just tacked those and closed those up all the way. After I was done with the outside of the corner, I went over again with the inside of the corner. So basically doubled up over my welds, and that gave me an opportunity to create a nice big puddle. And by doing that and putting a bigger weld on there, it's just going to strengthen everything up. You know, I have to just take it as it goes here with the reviewing, right? And maybe we add a little piece of round bar in there, but the profile actually looks really nice. And the end, once it gets a lick of fill over top of it, and that's sanded down, it'll just be a perfect little molded inside tight corner. And I don't see a problem. I think it'll probably end up staying like that. So I was watching my heat on this when I was doing it, spraying a bit of air on it and just keeping everything as cold, well, pretty cold. I wouldn't say ice cold, but pretty cold. It's a lot easier working on this metal. It's actually 16 gauge. So as soon as you get into like regular cars, like 19 and 20 gauge, that's where you've got to really keep on it with the air and keep everything cold, or else you're going to really just warp it, and you're going to have like a 3/4 inch buckle that goes all the way down your weld, and that's not controlling heat. So it's important to always be just making notes of that in your head as you're going, you know, touching, feeling everything, that, you know, you're not getting too crazy here with the heat. So yeah, from that, basically started grinding, dressing out my welds. So everything went down, you know, it was about 10 minutes of grinding. It wasn't bad, maybe 15 minutes of grinding, and took it all down. I didn't put too much excessive on there. I just put what I needed to make sure that I got a good connection with the metal, and ground it all down. Brought the profile back of the round bar, and it turned out decent, I think. Now you can see the convex that we've done. So it's a pretty even, I'd say, you know, 5/8, 3/4 inch of a gap right now that comes around it. But this is what my vision was for this, you know, this exact line that we're looking at right now. When the car drives by, truck drives by you, sorry, you're not going to see through it and see this air going through it. So that was really, you know, how I wanted to do this. I just seen it. I've seen so many of these vehicles around, trucks around, that they don't have this. And this, when it's done and it's all painted, you won't be able to notice, right? Just like those hash mark things I welded in there too. You're not going to be able to notice it. And that's the way it should be, right? So anyway,